I'm Kane, that's Copes, and the NBL play-in tournament has arrived. So has the NBA trade deadline, and we are about to be joined at the desk by player agent Sammy Flashovsky. That's not bad, a guest in-house.
Good. That is fantastic to have someone that big in our show.
And before we get to that, we do have to say that we went to the tennis last week. We were also hanging out away from this studio and away from NBL stadiums. We had the Gazies, the NBL Awards, and I'm just happy to see that you've been able to dust yourself off and get here.
You were hanging out. I had to go home early. You were out all night, I hear, and you couldn't get a ride home. I hear you had to walk home.
I did have to walk home. I don't know what's going on. These cabbies, they're trying to charge me $50 to get a taxi ride about 2 kilometres, Copes.
Next time, I'll give you the $50, bro. Don't walk home. All right, let's go.
All right, let's get to Kyrie Irving, because I mentioned the NBA trade deadline. Now, Kyrie Irving requested a trade out of Brooklyn. Within days, it was done. He's in Dallas. Dorian Finney-Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie go to Brooklyn. What did you make of this? Should we even be surprised at this point that Kyrie Irving is on the move yet again?
Listen to me. Kyrie Irving, the player, fantastic. Does what he does, can play, can score. One of the best ball handlers in the league. The problem is...
There's a but coming.
But the problem is all the shenanigans off the floor, the disruptions he brings to teams. It's just not good, man. I mean, and we know he's talented. But how long do you honestly think he's going to be in Dallas? How long will he get along with Doncic? And then, on top of that, will they mix together on the court? Doncic likes to hold that ball. Is Kyrie going to stand in the corner? Or is he going to get mad and complain? Doncic isn't going anywhere. Kyrie will be on the plane going somewhere else very soon.
Well, he's also going to be a free agent this offseason. He spent 2 seasons in Boston. He spent 3 seasons in Brooklyn, which is hard to believe because he only played about 140 games. Do you think
one season.
Do you think he cares about his legacy?
Not at all. I think Kyrie is look, I shouldn't say this, but I think a bit selfish. But, again, very talented. Just need him to just focus on basketball and don't worry about anything else.
All right, it's time to bring in Sammy because we need a player agent. We need someone who knows what they're talking about.
Because you don't.
I definitely don't. But first, let's hear what Kyrie Irving had to say at his introductory press conference with the Dallas Mavericks.
You know, just sitting in the seat today, I just know I want to be places where I'm celebrated and not just tolerated or just... you know, kind of dealt with in a way that doesn't make me feel respected. And there were times throughout this process when I was in Brooklyn where I felt very disrespected, and my talent, I work extremely hard at what I do. No one ever talks about my work ethic, though. Everyone talks about what I'm doing off the floor. So I just want to change that narrative, write my own story, and just continue to prepare in the gym. And now that I'm in Dallas, just focus on what I can control, like I said. And, you know, I'm always going to be close with those guys in Brooklyn, just like I'm close with the guys in Boston, just like I'm close with the guys in Cleveland. You know, it is a team competitive sport, but we care about each other's families way more off the court. So I know the relationships will extend off. I'm just focused on preparing to win.
The fans love trade deadline, but I imagine it's a little more stressful for the players, and particularly for men like Sammy Flashovsky, who is a player agent to Jack White, Jock Landale, some of our Australian women's stars, Alana Smith, Jade Melbourne as well. But you're out here in Australia. What is it that you're doing out here? Because you've touched every corner of the country.
He's spending money. That's what he's doing. He's got some big-time clients, man.
Right.
You kidding me?
That's actually a good point. Is that what you're doing?
I am bouncing from city to city right now. I'm checking in on everyone. I'm making sure everybody's happy, healthy, doing well. You know, we're also approaching contract negotiation time. We're nearing free agency in both the men's and women's leagues, so there's work to be done.
So I mentioned Jock Landale, and we'll get straight to this. One of the prominent Australian players, and he's been doing really sensational things, whether it was in his first year and now to Phoenix. But I remember catching up with him. We spoke to him on our other ESPN programs. Fascinating off-season last year with the trade to Atlanta and then to Phoenix. So what goes on for a player like Jock where there is not a guaranteed deal and he's trying to find a new home?
Yeah, and it was a more circuitous route for Jock in last off-season, but at the end of the day, you know, we really valued the fit with the Phoenix Suns, and that was something that we wanted to accomplish, you know, throughout the off-season. So, you know, in conversations with the San Antonio Spurs, you know, everyone was on the same page, and we, you know, managed things to where Jock could end up with the Phoenix Suns, where he's obviously thriving right now.
Now, so my question to you is about Ben Simmons. Everyone talks about Ben. Everyone loves Ben. As an agent, what would your advice be for Ben Simmons right now?
I think for Ben, it's just about playing. It's just about being on court continually, uninterrupted. Over the long haul, I think what you're going to see is Ben is going to revert more to his true self, which is a dominant defensive player, a phenomenal playmaker, rebounder. So for Ben, it's really about getting an uninterrupted run on the court.
Would you recommend he play for the Boomers, or would you have him sit out?
I think any talent within the Boomers that you could bring in, if they're bought into, the Boomers culture, absolutely.
Good.
I mentioned Jock and how he's sort of broken into this space. So even as we do talk about Ben, there is different emotional factors as he's trying to find his way back at the NBA level. What about for a guy like Jack White, who also did spend some time with the Boomers program, but he was trying for the first time to crack into the NBA, go to Summer League. What was the process for him? Because it's been a nice rise coming off the Achilles injury.
Now, if you want me to tell you how much I love Jack White, we're going to need a longer show here. Now, Jack White's journey in the Summer League was one of one. What people don't remember about that is that he played for the Boomers. He got on the next plane to Denver. He had 24 hours in Denver before joining the team over in Vegas for Summer League. So he had none of that introductory camp time. He was jet-lagged. He didn't quite have his legs under him. And he worked his way into Summer League and turned that into an NBA contract off the back of 24 hours of preparation.
So there was a clip on social media, and I thought it was great. It was you talking to Jack. I believe the NBL helped organise this, and you're explaining to him, listen, just relax. You have just got off a plane. I understand you're trying to chase your dream, but you did great things. So can you just let us into the mental side of what the agent is? Because I do think that most people sit back and we joke and you're making cash and you're signing the big deals. But there is part of this that is a mental role.
I actually think more of it nowadays is about managing the mental side of sport right now. That, I know the clip you're referring to, and that was, you're seeing Jack, the true competitor. He'd just gotten off the plane. He'd just suited up in a Nuggets jersey for the first time, and he wanted to win, and he wanted to play big minutes, and he wanted to impact the win. And I just had to remind him, okay, there's a process here. There's several games. They love you already. They loved him the moment he got off the plane. And for him, it's just about working your way into that rotation, and then you'll get an opportunity somewhere here this week in Vegas. And I think it was the next game he came out and had about 16 rebounds.
Yeah.
Wow.
The rest, as they say, is history.
Now, Markkanen is a very big name in the NBA. He's a superstar.
All-star.
An all-star. Superstar, all-star, same thing. Now, how do you tell a guy like that what he needs to know? I mean, how do you sit down with a guy that's so big in the NBA?
Yeah, and with someone like Lauri Markkanen, he's so in tune with his game, he's just so in tune with his body, he does everything right off the court. There's actually very little he needs to be told, to be honest with you. For him, it's mostly about putting him in a position to succeed. Okay? For him, what this year shows us is what we tell every player around the world: fit is everything. Okay, and you know this as a player, being in the right environment that is conducive to your success, a team that is going to give you the opportunity to showcase your full array of skills is everything. Now, Lauri's case is interesting. He went over to Eurobasket right before being traded, and he actually had an opportunity to show his new team, hey, I can do all of this. In the NBA, I've done this, but I've actually got this to my game too. And so when he joined a new team that didn't have a go-to player, he came into a training camp and everybody's figuring out their roles. And he came in with his confidence sky high and established right away that, okay, this is who I can be in the NBA. And it snowballed from there. Confidence, trust, it's everything.
And he's about to sign his next contract is going to be through the roof.
That's right.
So I know you got the biggest smile on your face. Fantastic.
But you are a nice guy. Well, that's right. I should say.
Well, you want him to be
came
your
into
agent?
the
You trying to
studio.
get him to be your agent now or something? Calm down.
Well, potentially, because clearly everyone that he touches is getting these big deals. But these conversations can't always be friendly.
Yeah.
And there has to be some pushback from the teams and pushback from you when you're trying to organise these deals. Jock Landale just went through a guarantee date. Jack White, we'll see where the future lies. What is the process for you? Because I imagine it starts very early for a guy like Jack White.
Yeah, and when you talk about that there's always a right fit out there somewhere, that means that you might be at the wrong fit at that point in time. And that means there's work to be done to maneuver in and out of different situations, and that can lead to difficult conversations too. So, for me, it's just a process of understanding the lay of the land, having as much knowledge as possible, communicating that to the player. But at the end of the day, the players make key decisions here because they're the ones that have to live it. It's my job to inform them, it's my job to create options for them, but it's a player's job to make a decision and live it at the end of the day.
Have you seen the movie Jerry Maguire?
I haven't. I knew you were going to go there. I knew you would.
I always ask Asians that. No, here's a serious question. You've been in Australia for 2 weeks. You've seen a lot of talent. Is there anyone that sticks out that you think might make an NBA team or close to making an NBA team?
Well, I think the obvious one in the NBL right now is Xavier Cooks. If you can there's enough talent in the NBL that if you can be the MVP of this league, you can play in the NBA. I also think there are guys like under-the-radar guys like DJ Mitchell up in Brisbane. I think guys like that can have the potential to make the league. I think there's a lot of imports in this league that can make their way back to the NBA. And I think one of our guys, Justin Robinson, who's headed back to Illawarra next year, I think he's been in the league before and he'll be back there in no time.
Let me ask you a simple question then while we're on the subject of Justin Robinson, a player that unfortunately we didn't get to see with the Illawarra Hawks at all. He stayed in Australia for the entire season. Why? And then why has he decided to stay with Illawarra? Because from the outside, this is a pretty big tick of approval for what the Hawks are doing.
And that's why he committed early to the Illawarra Hawks, because he wanted to make that statement that he is in complete support of what the Illawarra Hawks are doing and what Jacob, as coach, is doing. He stuck around because he felt like he had unfinished business and he wasn't able to play the part that he wanted to on the court. So he thought, okay, well, I'm going to play the part off the court to help my team, through the season. Now, they obviously had a lot of injury difficulties over the course of the year, and it wasn't the most enjoyable year for them from a win-loss perspective, but he is a big believer in what they are doing, and he wanted to make his statement come out early before free agency and say, I have unfinished business here, I'm bought in. Let's run it back. So
we mentioned a couple of the women you represent as well, and Alana Smith, I believe, put up 42 points or something absurd last week. So what is the challenge for the women's game? Because the WNBL and these Europe leagues are going on at the same time, then WNBA is kind of in between. So when you're working out a deal for Alana Smith, probably more money in Europe, but how do you approach those scenarios?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge in the women's game right now is that for players of a WNBA level, there's no break. If you're committed to playing in Europe or the WNBL and you're playing in the WNBA, you're going season to season to season. And that's grueling on the body, obviously. And that's how, our women's players are able to make a wage it's still not indicative of their abilities. It's better than it used to be, but we still have a way to go in that regard. So there's plenty of challenges there. And in terms of the Australia versus Europe decision, it's just about fit. It's about finding the right fit for each player.
Speaking of Australia and Europe, what's the real word on the street about the Australian basketball? Now, you've got players in the NBA. What are they saying about Australian basketball?
Well, I think the true indicator of that is how many scouts you see at every NBL game right now. If I have a player who's on the verge of the NBA and I can send them to any league in the world, especially if they're an Aussie, I'm sending them home. Because I know that what they do on this floor in Australia is going to have the respect of the NBA scouts. I know scouts love coming out here in summer to watch games rather than heading out to a European winter. And I think there's a lot that a player can accomplish. And we've seen it in the last few years. We saw it with Jock. We saw it with Jack White. We've seen it with plenty of others, and we'll continue to see it.
Sammy, you're a star, and we appreciate you taking the time to come into the studio because we know how busy you are. We appreciate your time. We're going to talk about which NBA player can a team least afford to lose. There's probably a few on the list, but before we do that, let's throw to some of the best dunks we've seen involving prop scopes.
Let me see.
Here goes Griffin. Caught it and slammed it. He cleared the hood. A perfect setup from Baron Davis.
Are you kidding me?
Oh!
Are you kidding me?
And it stayed on. It stayed on.
He blew it out. He blew the candle out.
It's going to be impressive.
There it is.
Blind. Here comes Sabalos. Yes!
That might be Elfrid Payton in that mascot.
I'm telling you, this is a tough dunk here.
Yes, it is.
That's real right there.
Yes, it is.
Another Superman is in the building.
Eyes 22 upside the head for Catlin. That's nice.
What's up? Olive, DJ, Baby Cash. What's up with y'all, my little ones? Daddy love y'all. You too, Mama B. Sir, take Williams one play. Take Williams one play. Hey, over here, over here, over here, over here, over here. Doing a hell of a job, bro. Absolutely, impressive, bro. Every rebound. Every rebound. Nobody leaking out. Whoa. Appreciate you, bro. What's up, man? You good? You good, man? Hey, you good? Ah! Good to see you, bro. Let's go to Boston.
If there's one thing we know, Copes, when the players are mic'd up, they're very aware of it. But I will say, I think Draymond Green is talking like that under any circumstance. What did you learn from that little package?
He's trying to go to Boston, man. He knows he's not going to get that big contract from Golden State. So he's trying to rub it in, telling the coach, I think you're doing a hell of a job. Get out of here. We know that already.
Good fit in Boston, Draymond?
Man, wherever. I think Draymond can play anywhere.
You're still a big fan of this Warriors team, though.
I am, but look, let me tell you something. Without Steph Curry, they're going to struggle, I think. So, but they still got a lot of talent. They're coming back from injury. They shoot the ball well, and when they're shooting, it's going.
Well, we know from doing this show, you have no problem with getting some words out, a bit of vocality. What do you think about yourself mic'd up back in the day?
Probably wasn't going to work because the amount of times me and Gazy swore at each other on the court, it wasn't going to work, man. We fought like cats and dogs on the court, but we tried to win. You know, it was today these players are too soft.
So whose fault was it, though? If you're arguing
his fault every time. What are you talking about? I was always right.
Why?
Because I played both ends of the floor. I played defense. He was standing at the half court waiting on the ball. Gazy, get back, play some defense.
What about on the golf course? You guys still play golf a couple of times a week?
We do, and I beat him. I don't like bragging about myself. You know, let's move on. Let's not talk about me.
Can we get you mic'd up on the golf course?
Of course, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yes, let's do that. Let's do that.
All right, let me ask you a question about the injuries. We saw Steph Curry this week with some ligament damage to his knee. He's going to miss up to a month. Is there a player in the NBA that if you take them away from their team, this is the biggest loss across the league?
Yes, Jokic. He's unreal. I mean, this guy averages a triple-double. I think the other day he had a triple-double at halftime. He is a superstar. He controls the game. He controls the tempo. You take him away, and I'm not saying they don't have talent, but if you take that triple-double away from that team, they struggle a little bit. They don't win as many games.
Yeah, I mean, the easy answer to me is if you take any superstar off the team, they're going to be in trouble and they can't win the title. But if we're talking about right now in 2022-23, the Warriors' home-road split is very concerning. I've got it here. They're 21-6 at home. They're 7-20 on the road, and they're around 500. So the problem is home court advantage could mean a lot for this team in the postseason. If Curry's out for a month, it's going to be hard for this team to then push into home court advantage in the first round.
It is, but you know, they got so much talent. Wiggins, Poole, Klay Thompson, all those guys can shoot, and you got Draymond Green still in the mix. So you can't count, you can never count that team out because they're so offensive-minded. They get the ball up and down, and they shoot the ball well.
Giannis, you actually like the Bucks in the East. If you take Giannis off that team, that would be problematic.
That would be problematic. You love Giannis. That's your boy. I know that.
I do.
But if you take him off, they'll struggle as well. Although they got some shooters. Middleton's been hurt for a while. So without those superstars, they won't make the finals.
I think in the end, we came back and we agreed with my point that if you take a superstar off the team, you're not winning the title.
It's hard for us to agree.
The Melbourne Tigers aren't winning a title without one of Copeland or Gaze.
That's right, because before I got here, it was Gaze. When you brought the big dog in, we got those rings. But now, seriously, we had to bring Bracky in the rebound because we were getting up all the shots and missing. So we needed someone to kick that ball out again.
All right, let's get to conversations between players and referees because we see it all the time in the NBL. The players, they're barking at the refs. The coaches are barking at the refs. But I was just scrolling through YouTube and I came across a classic conversation between Michael Jordan and a referee back in the day.
But he didn't touch it with both hands. That's the thing. You think so, Michael? 55 hits, 2 to come. Michael, I didn't see 2 hands on him, Michael.
Yeah.
But I believe you.
You did.
But I believe you. I only saw the one hand on him.
That's like me when we're talking about hoops and you say something and I say, Copes, I believe you. I believe you, Copes.
He's pretty soft. That's funny. Look, Michael Jordan has that influence. And you're right. The guys today are always barking at the referees. No one has that sort of relationship with the referees. But back then, because Michael was so big, everyone wanted to please Michael.
Okay, what about the old theory of working the referees as a coach? We see it all the time, and you hear the announcers will say, well, he's picked up that tech for a reason, or he starts the arguments early in the game with the referee. Did you ever go to work on a ref, whether it was fouls or you saw something that you thought you could take advantage of?
Absolutely. You always want to get that. If you think the referees, the calls are not going your way, you get that technical foul early to let the referees know you're looking. And they don't want to hear you barking all game. They don't want to hear that. So eventually you'll get a couple of calls here and there. But sometimes you get those referees that don't play that, and they'll kick you out. And I've been kicked out plenty of Big B games trying to be the head coach.
You got ejected?
A couple of times. 3 or 4 times.
Can you believe that? That is disgraceful.
That
is disgraceful behaviour, Coach. But I'm interested because you look at these officials and you say, okay, well, it is Michael Jordan. You're talking about an all-time great, LeBron James. Human nature suggests that you're going to be maybe see some things that you might not see with your 15th player coming off the bench. So I think that we have to understand that the officials might be swayed a little bit. We might not like it, but I feel like it's a real thing.
It's human nature. You got a superstar, and he's saying, they're fouling me. And most superstars are going to get fouled anyway because they have a lot of attention on them. Bryce Cotton, they just really go at Bryce Cotton. And sometimes we feel like he doesn't get the calls that he deserves. But the referees give the superstars a little bit of leeway. You know what I mean? They give them a little tap and say, look, I got you.
There is a lot of free throws in today's game. Let's get to a big weekend hoops preview. We've got the Bucks and the Lakers, and the NBL play-in tournament continues to roll on. But first, let's have a look at some of the highlights from the second-year players in the league, including Aussie star Josh Giddey.
Look out. Speaking of look out, my goodness, a thunderous dunk in transition.
Continues to go to work with the move and the throwdown. Zion, Trey, and the buzzer. Got it! But Rudy Gay recognizes Jose coming up with Zion. He'll do it himself. What a play. 14 points for 11.
Giddey back it down to White. That is a tough fadeaway. Still got it to go. So smooth.
Quickly to the rim, kicks. Grimes waiting for 3. Nails it! The roll, great pass. That's what he can do as the facilitator.
Missed it. Good rebound by Rozier. Rozier inside. Oh, Mobley, he ate it alive. But Kevin and Jalen much better here in the clutch.
Oh, goodness!
Wants to get a lot of movement off of Lou Alcindor. There he is, working one-on-one against Bellamy. His first shot. It's Alcindor on his first attempt from the field.
In numbers.
LeBron James' first shot is good.
So for him to be able to consistently hit the jumper, it's going to allow him to be able to have the defensive guy come up onto him so he can use his strength and drive by him.
Well, LeBron James has passed the all-time NBA scoring record in a feat that we just did not think was going to happen at all. But I can tell you who is most disappointed about that. Ooh. And that's the fans that had the tickets to the Milwaukee Bucks and Los Angeles Lakers game because they're paying thousands of dollars and the record's already been broken and everyone's moved on.
He's still a superstar, though. You still want to go see him play. I think it's fantastic that he's put this much time into the NBA, 20 years. He's got the record. He's so proud. And it's a great move, man. I mean, I'm not a total LeBron. I'm a Michael fan, but LeBron deserves what he's done for this league.
They're 25-30. They're 13th in the Western Conference, and they lost that game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, everyone's always going to remember that for breaking the record, but they are still very much in the middle of the pack right now.
Absolutely. They need some help. LeBron, what is he, 37, 38 now? LeBron needs some help. Anthony Davis, we can't depend on him. He's a great superstar, but he's injury-prone. So you can't really depend on him. Westbrook's doing his thing off the bench, playing a lot better now, but I still think they need some help.
The Cavs and the Pelicans now, talking about a team that's been on a slide. New Orleans were on fire to start the season. Zion Williamson pinged the old hammy. That is a big hamstring, Copes. They're 5-13 since he's had this injury, and they have really dropped off. Can they regain? They think maybe he's going to come back in the next week or so. Can they pick it up again?
If they can work on that big hamstring, I'm pretty sure he'll come back firing because he was on fire before he got hurt. The team was doing well. They're struggling hard now.
I was just thinking about it. So if they're 5-13, we didn't mention Zion before when we were talking about players that teams can't afford to lose, but he would have to be high on the list because they're a young team, the Pelicans, and when you have that younger team that relies on your top-end player perhaps more than some of those more veteran teams, he might be one of those guys.
Absolutely. But see, the thing is, he's been hurt for a couple of years, so we missed him. Now he came back and played great for this short term, got hurt, is out again, so we didn't think about that. So
the NBL play-in tournament continues to roll on, but I tell you who is not worried about that because they got their feet up at home is the New Zealand Breakers, a team that you've been on. 100%. Now, the NBL awards, they were great. Derek Pardon, Barry Brown, second-team All-NBA. Barry Brown also sixth man of the year. Are they the biggest challenger to the Kings? You have been on them from very early days.
I think so because they play defense. They play both ends of the floor. They got scoring power coming off the bench. You know, Brantley plays great basketball. Pardon, a very good defender. And they can score, but then they play defense on the other end. So if any team can beat the Sydney Kings, It's the New Zealand Breakers.
Yeah, Copes, I've told you this. Do not save your best material for the commercial breaks, okay? And we got to the commercial break, and you talked about this ejection from Billy Milton-Hall. What's going on? What happened?
Now, I was barking at him. I was going off, crying about a call. Billy, you missed a call. And then I was standing there, and someone was shooting a free throw, and I gave him the stink eye. And he went, I'm gone straight away. How do you kick someone out of the game for just looking? I swear I didn't say a word, nothing. But I was gone.
You're an intimidating man.
I am. I scared him.
That was your one and only ejection?
No, but that's the one I want to talk about.
Yeah, because I'm sure there were some other occasions when your behaviour was not just a look.
Hey, I'm learning from you. I'm learning from you, Kane, all right? So don't try to roll me under the bus. Don't do it.
All right, speaking of players that you have been full of support for, Xavier Cooks, the MVP of the league, potentially...
The whole year, I'm talking about him the whole year.
Last word on Cooks?
He is a superstar. He won't be in this league long. I think somebody in the NBA will pick him up because he plays like Draymond Green. Gets it done.
Maybe you could be a player agent.
I would. They make a lot of money. And I'm looking for it. I need it. Trust me.
You're making more than enough money on this show, Copes. Kane and Copes, we're done again. It goes too quick.
I know we did it now.
See you next week.